Since the art form of cinema's genesis, music has played a central role. It began as a soundtrack for silent pictures, often played by organists within theaters. Then, when sound developed, united with dialogue to create the movie musical. From there, original film scores would be made, transitioning into jazz scores, transitioning into songs written specifically for films and film promotion, and finally transitioning into curated soundtracks of pre-existing songs. Very quickly, music became an integral element of nearly every film, as it remains to this day. Music in film can function in many different ways. Aaron Copland, who composed scores for movies like The Heiress and Of Mice and Men, outlines 5 main functions music in film can serve: creating atmosphere, underlining the psychological states of characters, providing background filler, building a sense of continuity, sustaining tension, and then rounding it off with a sense of closure. While his list is far from exhaustive, it does identify some of the essential work music can accomplish in film. However, there are only 3 main categories that I will be focusing on in this essay: affective, associative, and attentive. Music can evoke emotion in the audience or indicate emotion in the character, create thematic associations, and direct the audience's attention to a change in the film, be it in a character, the atmosphere, the theme, or the plot. In Moonlight, Barry Jenkins, with the help of composer Nicholas Britell, utilizes all 3 in incredibly effective ways. To begin with, Moonlight is able to indicate emotion in character and simultaneously evoke it in the audience. Regardless of the use of music and its main intent, music almost always evokes strong emotion in its listener. So in a way, every use of film music functions as an affective device. Even when Britell's score primarily serves another function, it also elicits emotion regardless of the scene. But perhaps the most emotionally evocative in both character and audience is the scene in which Kevin plays a song that reminded him of Chiron, leading him to call him and pull him back into their past together.
Anyway, man, I just thought about you, man. We got this jukebox in here, and folks come by and play their songs. That's the music we get in here, and this dude, man, it's reminded me of you.
The song played is Hello Stranger by Barbara Lewis. It's soulful, it's wistful, and most importantly, it's unquestionably a love song. As Kevin's eyes turn to meet Chiron's from across the room, Barbara Lewis's background singers sing. The song, paired with Andre Holland's and Javante Rhodes' facial expressions, create a tender, emotional atmosphere that needs no dialogue to sustain it. Not only does this song capture exactly what Kevin and Chiron are feeling, it helps to create one of the most emotional moments in the entire film. They can't articulate it out loud, because of fear perhaps, or because of shame. As Alexandra Resnick puts it, music becomes a way for Kevin and Chiron to articulate their emotions and desires within a heteronormative power structure. That example consists of diegetic music, or music that exists within the world of the characters. As the audience is hearing that song, so are Kevin and Chiron. However, much of film music is non-diegetic. Non-diegetic sound means any sound that is not heard by the characters but is heard by the audience. An affective example of this can be found in one of the movie's early scenes. When Chiron's friends are playing with a makeshift soccer ball, Britell's rendition of a Mozart song, Vespere Solennes de Confessori in C major, plays in the background. This song choice lends a sort of profundity to the scene, at times contradicting the clashing of limbs and the young masculine energy, at times reframing it into a more graceful light. It also emphasizes Chiron's isolation with its sweeping, mournful melody. Overall, this song choice belongs in the affective category because it provides a strong sense of atmosphere. The atmosphere of this scene would be completely different if it were replaced with, for example, a rap song like those that appear later in the film. Instead, there is something soft and almost surprisingly tender about it. In another film, Frances Ha, an example of affective music occurs directly after a change for the better in Frances's life. During the beginning of the film, her life is on a downward spiral. She has lost her roommate and her best friend and is struggling in her career as a dancer. And then, when she meets 2 men who she quickly befriends, she moves in with them. The next scene after their first dinner party starts with Modern Love by David Bowie as Frances, with a new lease on life, joyfully dances down a busy New York City street. The music here operates in 3 ways. As an homage to the French movie Mauvais Song, as an indicator of a transitional period in Frances's life, and most prominently, as an expression of her sudden inner joy. The second possible function of music in film is associatively, in order to create a thematic association. At times, that is meant to emphasize an aspect of the film's larger narrative, or perhaps it is meant to create an association between one scene in a film and another. This is a reason why repeated themes exist. Disney and Pixar are very well known for creating repeated themes that take on different contexts throughout their films. In the 2018 film Coco, the song Remember Me is played at first as an inspirational song,
Remember me, don't let it make you cry.
then for humor,
Though I have to travel far, remember.
the next time as a moving, revelatory moment,
Know that I'm with you the only way that I can be.
and finally as an affective scene that is meant to show what the song is about.
Mama, wait.
If this was the first time Miguel ever sang that song, the viewer wouldn't be as affected. But because it has taken on so many different contexts throughout the film, when it is played the final time, it is the viewer's understanding of those contexts and what they now mean that can create strong emotion. Another associative example can be found in the movie La La Land. The song City of Stars is sung twice, and Mia and Sebastian's theme is quoted in other songs throughout the movie, sometimes played extremely similarly to the first time, other times as one aspect of a different song. Their theme is obviously associated with their relationship, and the way it is played is meant to show how the characters are feeling about the relationship at the time. Once it is played for a final time, after the relationship has been over for years, it takes on a wistful, nostalgic tone that creates a strong, affective moment. And the script for La La Land reads this: "And ever so subtly, for just a fleeting second, Mia smiles. It's the kind of smile you could miss if you blinked. But it's enough to signal to Sebastian that she recognized the melody he played, and that she still remembers it, and still thinks of it to this day." None of this is articulated by the characters. It is communicated to the audience by the union between the mise-en-scene and the music. In Moonlight, a subtle connection between Chiron as an adult and his memory of Juan is made by a song that plays on Chiron's radio. The song is Cuckoo Cuckoo Paloma by Caetano Veloso. While it serves as an homage to another film dealing with similar themes of homosexuality, Happy Together, it also indicates that Chiron is thinking of Juan, his former father figure. It's a Latin song, and Juan is from Cuba. It is a strong tonal shift from the rap music that Chiron had been listening to previously. But as is often the case with associative music, it unites with the mise-en-scene to further aid that association. As the song plays, an image of black children playing in the ocean in the Moonlight plays, echoing Juan's story to Chiron, in which he said,
In Moonlight, black boys look blue.
It's a subtle connection, but it allows the viewer to feel Chiron's wistfulness, especially when it is abruptly juxtaposed with Chiron pulling up to Kevin's restaurant, Classic Man, a heavy rap song by Jadena and Kendrick Lamar playing. That scene is meant to stick out, and therefore meant to be noticed. Resnick says, playing Classic Man is a way for Chiron to perform heteronormative masculinity and past, which is essential to his survival and credibility. By beginning the third act with heavy rap songs, unlike those we had heard before, the viewer is shocked into thinking they're seeing an entirely different Chiron than the one they're used to. But by juxtaposing that song with this other very tender musical moment, the viewer is keyed into the contradictions and complexities within Chiron's character, being reassured that the Chiron they recognize still exists. A movie that employs music as an associative function throughout its entire runtime is Blue, part of the Three Colors trilogy directed by Krzysztof Kieslowski. This movie features an original score by Zbigniew Priesner, a score that is incredibly important to the plot and the theme and the characters' emotional states. The film features a woman named Julie, who has recently suffered the loss of her husband and daughter in a car accident. Her husband was a composer, and throughout the film, she hears his unfinished composition. In Priesner's words, music served to depict the film, but cleverly so. This means that there is no need to deal with the external events that we look at on the screen, but what is there in the people, what is in actors, and at the same time in us ourselves, in the audience, that is. It is meant to be deeply reflective of Julie's inner state. Whenever she's at the peak of her suffering and grief, she hears her husband's song, The Dead March, as the screen fades to black and then back again.
J'étais à la voiture juste après que...
Non. Excusez-moi.
Every time the screen darkens, that theme is heard, showing the black hole in her soul. The audience is meant to associate Julie's grief with that musical theme, and vice versa. To further emphasize this association, the first time that theme is heard is during the funeral of her husband and daughter. From every point onwards, it acts as a manifestation of her grief. However, by the end of the film, Julie decides to finish the composition with a friend of her husband's, and at last, the music takes on a new meaning as it takes on a new sound. The third and final function of music in film, at least for the purposes of this essay, is to draw the audience's attention to some sort of shift or change. Most famously, the theme from Jaws falls into this category. Only 2 notes are repeated, but it serves to create suspense and draw attention to the fact that a shark attack is imminent. Hitchcock utilizes music to this effect in multiple films. Most notably, the high violin string screeching in Psycho as Janet Leigh is murdered in the shower. When removed from their context, the 2 notes in Jaws might simply be 2 boring notes. The violence from Psycho would likely be uninteresting to listen to. But, as Robert Kosofsky puts it, music written for a film is wedded to the narrative and visual components of the film and is dependent on them for its structure. When divorced from these components, film music may sound amorphous or enigmatic. Its coherence is heard only in the context of a film's visual images and narrative. Hitchcock further emphasizes his point with the soundtrack for Vertigo as well as Psycho. While the camera uses a zollying effect in order to create the visual sense of vertigo, the chord played is a dizzying dissonance spiked with harp glissandi as the camera pulls back and zooms in, as Jack Sullivan describes it. It evokes the feeling of vertigo, even without the visual component aiding it. In Moonlight, one does not even necessarily need to hear the music to see that this attentive element is present. They merely need to read the track titles. Britell composed a theme for each iteration of Chiron: Little's theme, Chiron's theme, and Black's theme. However, in the second act of the movie, there is another track with a similar title and only one notable distinction: Chiron's theme, Chopped and Screwed. This theme occurs during the scene in which Kevin beats up Chiron. Chopped and Screwed is a musical technique that Barry Jenkins was interested in employing for Moonlight. It is typically used with hip-hop, involving slowing the song down and repeating other parts. Here, it is used with a theme that has been associated with Chiron throughout the film. It is the same theme that was heard directly after Chiron was being harassed by Terrell. When the music starts, the viewer's attention is drawn to the fact that something is about to change. The music itself has changed. Slowed down, it is almost ominous. By the time the fight scene is over, the music has faded to complete silence. There isn't even any room tone. Silence is another way to indicate a change in a movie's narrative. Then, Act 3 of Moonlight starts with a dramatic shift. Chiron dreams of his mother, with the familiar orchestral music playing behind it that the audience is accustomed to at this point in the film. Then, as soon as the next scene begins, Cell Therapy by Goody Mob, a rap song unlike anything heard thus far in the movie, starts playing. Along with the drastically changed Chiron, there's a drastically changed soundtrack. Another example of music used to direct the audience's attention to a change can be found in the famous montage from Citizen Kane. The music works with the mise-en-scene, their costuming indicating time passing, the set showing the table grow longer as the distance between the couple is more pronounced, and the blocking, to show the gradual dissolution of love between the Kanes. The music begins light, happy, romantic even.
I absolutely adore you.
Gradually it becomes more frantic, indicating anger and tension as they exchange harsh words.
Most incredible atrocity yesterday, Charles. I simply can't have it in the nursery.
But by the end of the montage, when the Kanes sit at opposite ends of the table in complete silence, it is light again, but not in a happy way. It indicates the gloomy resignation that the love of their marriage has faded. A simple example from The Favorite features opera music. Dryden's Music for a While plays as Abigail sits, reveling in her victory, socializing with ladies of the court, when it all comes to an abrupt stop as her rival Sarah, assumed by Abigail to be dead, enters the room. It's a simple example, and yet a common one. Music cutting out abruptly often works to draw the audience's attention towards a change. Those are 3 of the many functions music may play in film. However, there is a 4th one worth mentioning as it pertains to Moonlight, and that is the function of unifying film parts. Moonlight is split into 3 acts, made clear with a title card: Little, Chiron, and Black. Each iteration of Chiron has different music. Little has Baroque music like Vesperae Solennes. Chiron has only Britell's original score, and Black has an eclectic mix with rap music predominant. Rap in the 3rd act is an effective way to show Chiron's new bravado, but then there's a Mexican love song, tender doo-wop music, and Britell's gentle score, indicating that Chiron is now any number of things, that he has become a very complex person. There is also, as previously stated, a separate theme for each iteration: Little's theme, Chiron's theme, and Black's theme. Each of these themes have the same general melody. Chiron's theme is in a lower key from Little's theme, which is played when Little meets Juan for the first time. Black's theme is the same melody, except it has different instrumentation. It is played with strings and can be heard when Chiron is outside of Kevin's house. While each section features different music, his theme unifies the film parts together and creates a complex yet cohesive narrative. Film music plays many roles for the viewer, and these roles are ripe for analysis. Yet even if the average viewer does not notice every single intention behind music choices in cinema, that's not necessarily important. The average viewer may not know that Cuckoo Cuckoo Paloma is homaging Happy Together, or that music for a while alludes to the fury electo and also serves to indicate the turmoil in Queen Anne's mind. The viewer will have a different perception of the scene, even if the viewer is not aware of what is making her have that perception. So just like many other aspects of film, music is one of many elements that helps create the illusion.
I'm sailing